So we are saying today the Sudanese civil war. We needed to know what happened in Sudan. So I can say in this kind of arrangement, Sudan was colonized by Britain and Egypt from 1886 up to 1956 when she regained her independence. Shortly before and decades after independence, the new state of Sudan experienced two civil wars, the first starting from 1955 up to 1972, between Anyanya separatists and Sudanese government, and the second phase from 1983 up to 2005, between Sudanese People's Liberation Movement and Sudanese government. So friends, we are looking at Sudan. We believe by this time that at one time Britain and Egypt controlled the Sudan. But we are realizing that immediately after independence, the people of South Sudan were rising up against Northern what? Sudan. Altogether. Change is rising up. So in this kind of arrangement, we need to know what happened in where? In Sudan. So in this kind of arrangement, we need to understand the key causes of the Sudanese civil war. The key what? Causes. Number one, the effects of the August 1955 army mutiny. We believe by this time, in 1955, the army rose up against the government. Army mutiny, this is where the army rises up against the government. So in Sudan, the army rose up against the government. When the army rose up against the government, it is this that made the Southerners to have a point to fight. Because they were claiming that even the army is rising up against the government. Then the divide and rule policy of the British. Let me tell you, the British favored the northern Arabs against the Southerners. So because the British favored the northern Arabs against the Southerners, it is this that made big names among the Southerners to fight. At first there was the Anyanya group, and later there was SPLM under big names like John Garang, altogether. So by this, the divide and rule policy of the British. Because the British favored one group against the other, the British favored the northern Arabs against the Southerners. So it is this that annoyed the Southerners. That's why they had to fight for so many years. By the way, that's why in 2011, South Sudan was given its what? Independence. But the struggle was not easy. It started immediately after independence. Then the slave trade legacy. Let me tell you, the northern Arabs at one time took the southerners as slaves. As what? As slaves. Because the northerners took the southerners as slaves, this annoyed the southerners. That's why they had to rise up and stage a civil war. Because for them, they were not happy to be controlled by the what? By the northerners. So we are like saying, the slave trade legacy, where the northerners used to take the southerners as what? As slaves. This made the southerners to hate the what? The northerners. And this led to the Sudanese civil war. Then the dictatorship of General Ibrahim Buddo between 1958 and 1964. I can say General Ibrahim Buddo was a great dictator. He was a great what? He was like a northerner, but mistreating the southerners. It is this that annoyed the southerners. That's why they staged a civil. Let me tell you, political struggles are not easy. These people started real fighting in 1956, but they succeeded real success in 2011. Can you imagine? So political struggles are not what? Easy. Another one, the unfair handover of power to the northern Arabs by the British. I can say the British handed over power to northern what? Arabs, not to the Southerners. It is this that annoyed the Southerners. That's why they rose up and staged a what? A civil war. We believe by this time, the Southerners didn't want to be controlled by the what? By the Northerners. Another one, the failure by the British to grant a federal government to the South before independence. Let me tell you, the Southerners wanted a federal government. In other words, though they were part of the whole Sudan, and the Northern Sudan were the one controlling them, but they wanted a federal what? Government to have power of their own altogether. So it is this that led to the Sudanese civil war. They were meant to rise up because for them, they didn't want to be controlled by the what? By the Northerners. Another one, the forced Islamization policy on the Southern Christians and traditionalists. Let me say this. The Northern Arabs did what you call forced Islamization. You were made to become a what? A Muslim. So it is this that annoyed the Southerners. That's why they staged a what? A civil war. Because they were against the forceful what? Islamization. Another key aspect, the forced Arabization policies. The forced Arabization what? Policies. I can say in this kind of arrangement that the Northerners wanted their culture, the Arab culture, to be implemented by the people of South what? Sudan. So I can say the forced Arabization policy. You were meant to eat as an Arab. You were meant to smile as an Arab. You were meant to walk as an Arab. So it is this that annoyed the Southerners, and they staged a civil war. Big names like John Garang. By the way, you cannot talk about South Sudan without the name John Garang. He's the only man who stood in the rain when others were walking away. I can tell you he fought up to the last man until South Sudan finally it had to be liberated, though he was already dead anyway. Another one, the negative influence of the neighboring countries. Let me say, Libya under Gaddafi, Uganda under Obote, and later under Yoweri Museveni supported South Sudan to secede. Because South Sudan was being supported by big names in the room, like Muammar Gaddafi, Yoweri Museveni. It is this that led to the Sudanese civil war. Because by this time, Uganda was giving support to the rebels in South Sudan to fight against Bashir of Sudan. By the way, it is the reason why Bashir at one time also gave support to Joseph Kony, fighting Yoweri Museveni. So in this kind of arrangement, it was a question of the negative influence of the neighbors that led to the Sudanese civil war. Then religious differences. The northern Arabs were Muslims, the southerners were Christians, and others were traditionalists. So it is this that led to the Sudanese civil war. Because by this time, the Christians didn't want to be led by the what? By the Muslims. That's why they staged the what? The civil war. They were meant to fight